Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 14th event in the Nightlight Poetry Series. It's the Sonnet event, which means I'm very, very excited. My name is Tom Snarsky, and I'm delighted to be here with you tonight on this beautiful mid-October evening. We are here on the night of many, many things to celebrate. The supermoon is outside. It's exactly a fortnight before Halloween, so hopefully you're ideating some costume ideas, poetry themed or otherwise. And I'm kind of chagrined to learn this so late. It's National Possum Day. I wish I had known that before this, but I guess I'll observe it tomorrow. We are here to hear poetry by our excellent, excellent lineup of readers that have elected to join us tonight and who we're so, so grateful to have on Nightlight. You're going to hear from Jose Felipe Ozuna, Georgia Riordan, Nick Molbert, and Jessica Whipple this evening. Before they read, though, in case you haven't listened in before, Nightlight is a reading series featuring poets and writers in a monthly Zoom, usually on the third Thursday of the month at 9 p.m. Eastern. At each of our events, we feature a group of invited readers to share their work with us, and having slots for readers every month means we're always looking for folks who'd be interested in participating. So if you know, or are yourself, a poet or writer who'd be willing to share their work at a future event, please get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you, and cold reach outs are often the way we get our best lineup. So I would love to, love to, love to hear from you if that's something that seems up your alley, or if you're somebody who read on Nightlight before, or who read in our previous iteration, which was called Performance Anxiety some years ago. Please reach out. We are on Twitter at Nightlight Poems, all one word, and we're at night_light_poems_ on Instagram. Or you can just get in touch with me directly. I'm at Tom Snarsky, TOMSNARSKY, on pretty much all the places, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, or you can just email me. I'm tomsnarsky@gmail.com, and I would love to, love to, love to hear from you. So with all of those fun logistical things out of the way, I'm excited to tuck in and get to sit back a little bit, relax, and get to listening with our very, very first reader of the evening, who it gives me a great joy to introduce. That is going to be Jose Felipe Ozuna. Jose Felipe Ozuna was born in Guerrero, Mexico, and lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He's an UndocuPoets Fellow and a 2023-2024 Mentor Series Fellow. His poems are published in Poetry Online, The Rumpus, Had, and the anthology Here to Stay, Poetry and Prose from the Undocumented Diaspora. Jose, thank you so much for being here tonight. The floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me on. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. I'm really excited to read and really excited to hear everyone read. I told myself that I'm gonna only do one poem that I've read out loud, and this is that one poem. It's an erasure of this poem that I did a while back. There's this poet that I really love, Solmaz Sharif, who has this incredible series of poems called Reaching Guantanamo. And I wrote this before I ever read that poem, but I think there's a real way in that they speak to each other. And I love that about this. Yeah, it's called Border Crossing as Truth after Robert Creeley. I don't remember much about crossing the everything I say is a lie. The night like lavender. Trust me. The shadow of a raindrop. Shoes in the sand. The moon splits. I can tell you where they're buried. Every cloud, someone I love. I'm sorry, Mama, the border surrounds us. I can't promise anything. Brother, the sound of a coin rattling. Father, a sheet of memory. The echo outlines what's gone. The night is not a flower. I write that it blooms, and so it does. Um, Thank you. And I've been working on this next series of poems that I'm reading. I went to this writer's residency called Tofty Lake Center here in Minnesota. And up there, I worked on a manuscript, and I got it it felt pretty good. And then once I got back, it just felt so overwhelming to get back into it and work on this huge thing, it felt like. So I needed something else to focus on for a while. And I feel like these undocumented sonnets are they're a good way for me to write in the moment and I've set like a soft rule for myself to not focus so much on revision. So like a lot of these come out pretty quickly and I don't touch them very much after that. Um, and yeah, and obviously like very much in conversation with like Terrence Hayes, Diane Seuss, Oliver de la Paz. Yeah. This is Undocumented Sonnet in which I dream of citizenship. In the dream, every bird is wet with blood and leaves red clouds hanging in the sky, blueless and dark now that the sun has been ashed. Today, an uncle told me he shot down a bird by making his fingers into a gun and yelling, "Pow." I don't believe dreams are anything more than a blank page in which your brain makes meaning out of the day. But when the birds fell, I opened my mouth, swallowed as many as I could. I can't explain it, why I still believe this country will one day grant me anything other than contempt, or why I woke with feathers in my teeth, or why I reached for the water by my bed and drank. Undocumented sonnet. 16 and undocumented, beer in hand, I ran from cops, hid under a blue tree. I don't remember its name or if there were any stars above me. The cops chased everyone, stop or we'll tase you, but I heard deport you. I lived in a town where cops would target brown people. Under thick branches, I saw a moonless black sky. I thought it must feel nice to be a kid and not fear deportation. The mosquitoes made quick work of my body. Their bites looked nothing like constellations. I ran through a field, the wheat up to my neck into a friend's car. I was lucky. Still there in that country, that red rusted hatchback where beneath the mirror light, I made little crosses in those red bumps that resembled nothing but the spots where I had lost a little blood. This next one, again, I'm talking about Solma Sharif. She has a poem where she talks about this word in Farsi that means is was. And I brought that book up with me to that residency, and I was uh, something about that like really spoke to me, and also it felt very like it applied very much to being undocumented, like this feeling of not being a citizen, but not fully being welcomed here in the States, not feeling like I have a home here, but also not feeling like I have a home in Mexico. And like I got the chance to travel to Mexico to see my grandparents, and there's this like big long process. It's called advance parole. And that's what this poem is about. It's called Undocumented Sonnet, Advance Parole. They are not letting me return to Mexico. The place that isn't mine. I need to fill out a form to prove, disprove. My trip isn't valid. The goal of immigrant paperwork isn't to see, unsee what our humanity isn't worth. If it isn't there, I will see, unsee my family who aren't mine to find out if my blood isn't image flesh. I can only see, unsee so many pixel hands through Facebook, walk lost streets through Google Earth. I will return to this America where I won't know when, if, how, why, where, when I will be deported. Undocumented, illegal means my existence is criminal. I am a question of morals, un-American citizen of distance. Question 1A, purpose of trip. Answer, how much does my father not look like his father? Answer, I want to hold my grandmother's hand. Undocumented sonnet. My poems are bullshit. No teeth, not even mouths. I must live with this. Cold facts. My poems won't change anything, not distance, not the language. I am losing the words beginning to sound like branches creaking before they break. I will lose my family despite our shared blood. I will lose why the sky was painful to look at, or what my hand inside the dirt reminded me of. Was it childhood? Was it childhood where I learned I was destined to look through the slats of a fence for a better view? Why am I not the light? I always wanted to be a landscape. Undocumented sonnet. When we die, are us undocumented given passports to travel as we please? If so, then I, on a soft pillow, will lay down my limbs and begin the heavy work of leaving. I would go first into that slow field of green and yellow from a dream. So long ago now, I've forgotten if the grass bent this toward my body or that way, into what some might call a cleaner shape. Then walk into a room where I would learn finally how to become a citizen, how to be seen as wholly human. The window's afternoon glimmer, almost starlight raindrop, what stayed on the tip of my tongue after opening my mouth to the sky in Mexico. Where can I go to and return in this body, not without legal permission? Undocumented sonnet. In a language that feels each day less and less my own, I must remember what love means, how to say it, the practice of mother tongue, speaking out of English into a small wound. When my parents die, we are expected to work until our bones are no longer ours. I will die never knowing what my mother's arms around her sisters would look like, sound like. I am afraid of losing these words. My light, exiled, nationless, homeland empty, languageless. If one way of understanding death is to imagine your home, then forgetting it, what to make of my tongue, searching for, returning to the dark of my mouth with a cold shadow. Okay, now I'm gonna end the reading with these letters that I've been writing. I'm in this class right now through the poetry project, where it's all about letters and like autoepistolary, which is like a form that I like had some resistance to at first. But I think it's been like really helpful to like break out of my like rhythms and like my own like patterns. Yeah, thank you all so much. I'm gonna read three letters and then gonna switch it over to the next reader. Thank you. This is called Sometimes a Bridge, Letters to My Younger Self Before We Left Mexico. Eduardo, I'm in a different not home than the one you will leave. Through my hotel window, a line of trees is hitting the sky. I'm almost above them. How tall are you today? I can hold my breath for a while, a few minutes at least. It changes things to think about you breathing. I've learned that air feels different depending on how alone you feel. It was this bird flying into a tree, brown, white belly, thrashing around the green until it landed and seemed almost to be gone. I don't know its name. I don't know the names of most things. Your family calls you Eduardo, so I will too. You are the third brother in my life. I forget that I am also my family. They call me Jose here. Sometimes a name is a bridge. Another bird joined the first, circling a different branch of that same tree. It was those animals that got me thinking about you today, or us, our body, our shared time. What kind of bird lives inside you right now? The birds here are gone. Describe the wings you want to grow. What is it that time collects, if not distance? I'm sorry. I trace the outline of our hand with my finger when I'm anxious. Sometimes I remind myself that our body moves and so flows and so cuts through the world. It was these birds, barely recognizable, almost not there at all, that made me think of you, Jose. Eduardo, can you describe the moon for me? There is a place you haven't even begun to think about. It's evening here. Little spots of sun are dappling my neighbor's fence, their blue house. I touch flowers when I see them, pull leaves off branches and crush them in my palm. My thighs burn when I ride my bike. I sing badly, dance worse. I think this might be easier if I didn't love this life. Can you describe the moon for me? I'm hungry for the cold. When I visited, I did not see you, though thought of you often. What does mama sound like before? I can't imagine how small your hands are. I am remembering now that you will cover your hands in paint and place them on a snow globe. Baby blue on white glass. Mama had it on the Christmas tree every year until it broke. Draw yourself. I know we must look alike, but I'm forgetting. I'm sorry that you'll have to cross the border. I know you don't know what that means. Hold Ami close. Hold your brother close. Think of Papa. Your hands will grow. The moon is supposed to be full today, over here. Maybe for you too. It's hard, I know, to feel so small. But look, I can cover the moon with my thumb. We look like this, touching things no one promised us. Jose. Eduardo, I am working on my clarity. Marie Howe says that to resist metaphor is very difficult because you have to actually endure the thing itself, which hurts for some reason. In an attempt to understand what lives inside us, I am working to learn about our people, or what happened to our people. At the border, they have killed us, hanged us, tortured us. A border patrol agent said the mothers would always break. They criminalized us, deported even the citizens, bled us for labor, claimed our blood was dirty. The borderlands, an open graveyard where bodies are not buried, but killed and left out as meat for the vultures. We were deported en masse, not like animals, for we walked up upright, but were seen as animals by people, people who also love and breathe and live among me, you, people who take pride in being American, people who have shaken my hand, thanked me for the door I held open for them. I internalize the narrative that we are illegal leeches. If I could teach you anything, it would be to pledge allegiance to nothing except your love and our people. We could have died in the desert. I don't want to remember you for what you almost were. Please refuse the gratitude of being alive. Wish that this had never happened, should never happened, despite what you will love. A boy's hands somewhere in the desert collect the sun, but do not move. I'm sorry for giving this image to you. It's just that I've been looking for someone to help me carry it. What's that? Thank you.
Wow, that was a beautiful, beautiful way to begin the evening. Jose, thank you so much for being here and for sharing that incredible work with us. And that again was Jose Felipe Ozuna, who you can find on Instagram at jfelipe41 and on Twitter at Jose Felipe Ozuna. Also, you can find more of Jose's work at Jose's Linktree, which is linktr.ee/. Jose writes, and if I think I speak for more than just me in this call when I say that no rush because manuscripts are scary, but when you get that one out there in the world, we're going to be very 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 excited and privileged to read it. Whew, wow. Beautifully read in the chat. Thanks, Rachel. I agree wholeheartedly. And I am equally excited to be rolling into our next reader of the evening, who I'm very, very excited to introduce as Georgia Riordan. Georgia Riordan, she, they, is an MFA student at Rosemont College with a writing BA from Ithaca College. They write primarily within the forms of poetry, short story, and essay, and within the genres and cross genres of horror, magical realism, and creative nonfiction. They've been published by various magazines and publishers, including Allen Squire Publishing, Red Coyote, 100 Subtexts, Cosmic Horror Monthly, and the Asbury Park Press. For all their works, you can go to their website, georgiariordan.com, GeorgiaRiordan.com. But you can also hear Georgia read right now. Thank you so much, Georgia, for being here. I'm excited to hear what you're going to read.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Can you hear me all right? Okay, I had to connect an external microphone because my laptop has decided to shit the bed, finally. Um, so I have chosen 10 poems. Um, most of these are previously published. 3 of them are not. I'm just very excited to share them. Um, this first one is called What Shapes a Haunting, and it is the opening poem of my 60 poem thesis, which is upcoming. What shapes a haunting? Sometimes your house is haunted because there is a ghost between you and the hallway's end. Sometimes your house is haunted because you miss your grandfather, and your sister misses him even more. So the two of you try to conjure him with recipes you can't quite remember. Sometimes your house is haunted by the ugly coat of green paint the landlord forgot that peeks out from behind the baseboards. Sometimes your house is haunted by scratches on the floor from moving all your mother's furniture out and the 4 spotted stains where the ottoman's feet stood for 15 years. Sometimes your house is haunted because of a carbon monoxide leak, and it takes 2 uniformed strangers to tell you there's no ghost there. And sometimes your house is haunted because you refuse to leave. This next one is called Beach Baptism in the Off-Season. It was just recently published by 100 Subtexts. Yeah. Kneel at the end of the sand. Let the waves drink you down to a drop. A white cap rears its head towards the sky. Close your eyes and brace for it. The sand will shield you from your own unlovable visage. You will be clean when you leave, good and clean and salted like the earth. This next one is called The Shelleys Added Another Bone to the Cemetery. It was originally written as a joke, and then it got published, and it is a poem about how Mary Shelley lost her virginity on her mother's grave. The night, a velvet duvet over us, protecting our earthly marriage bed. The sweat of our passion wets a bone meal mattress. Crickets sing our songs of ecstasy. Soprano screeches accentuate the whining moans and hungry grunts. The sweet cream of my skin froths under his fingers, and my fingers find my mother's name inscribed in stone. Women hold their mother's hands to bring in new life, but me, I became alive as a woman, not a wife, clawing the granite of her grave. This one was published by the same magazine, Partially Shy, and it is called Night Creatures, a sonnet for the spooky. Rejoice the rising night with furred ghosts, awake but under sleeping bones and skin. We bind our naked selves in surface hosts beneath the shining of the sun's silver twin. From hardy claws and high-howled ballads to upturned coffins of sweet-fanged beasts, sanguine hunger leaves our faces pallid, but bloodshed blesses us like old priests. When the humans wake, they will know no fear, for by then we will have scattered afar. Until they do, we bellow proud and clear. No monster finds another too bizarre. The night will fall, as will we, as all does. Better to have been once been than never was. This next one is also from my upcoming thesis. It is called Chrysanthemum Season. Chrysanthemum season comes in shades of mulberry and wisps of goldenrod. Summer leaves us behind while the mums are abloom. Now is the time for renaissance and pom-pom plumes in our warmest colors. The tarot card of death will bring change in mid-October amongst the lashing sting of starry scorpions. Death is never the ending for a flower. When they wither in the weeks to come, they'll fade away without fear. Their time is a short circle, and they know it well. This poem was published by Grim and Gilded a couple months ago. It is called Expensive Taste. I fell asleep in a first-floor flat whose wide windows faced the city street. Next door and to the left, a funeral home turned out mourners before I even opened my eyes. I woke in the bed alone and listened to the slow march of glazed-eyed grief make its way through Philadelphia, and wondered if such a sound was really worth the view. Okay, so this piece I wrote for a class that was exploring hybridity within writing. It is called The Dog That Bites You Is Still Your Dog, after Stephen Gerkes's The Last Days of Judas Iscariot, however you would like to say it. Love is worth 30 silver pieces, and Judas Iscariot is not even worth one. For a moment, he was loved more than he had ever been before. A blessed, blissful moment where he could trail behind his beloved in a collection of other loved souls. History may not remember all the names of the other beloveds, but Judas's name is never left off the list. He was destined to be loved. He was notably, and not regrettably, loved. And he was notably, regrettably, not worthy of such love. But he was shaped as such. He could not have been unborn, or destiny would find itself at a dead end. He had to have been made so hungry for love he would do anything, and then he would have to spit in the face of those he loved so he could be made unworthy. He was a rabid dog who bit the hand that fed him, but he was born with rabies in his veins. And he was seen by his beloved, foam at his lips, and was loved anyway. This one is called I Have Been a Mother Before. It was published by Red Noise Collective, who have seemingly vanished off the face of the earth. I don't know if anyone else has seen that, but it's very sad. I saw the babe I had birthed along the shore. She was dead, of course, in this dream, as she had been in that life, but I didn't know it yet. I felt the press of the sand upon my knees and the full body ache of childbirth find home between my legs. It was just me and my daughter and the waves crashing below us. I cut her cord with a snagged seashell, slicing her free of me or me free of her, as she slipped, wet and gooey, from my room. She was a mess of sand and blood and pieces of me that she took with her. Even stillborn, her fists were clenched, as if she had fought death valiantly inside my body. And though she did not cry, I saw her tiny, bloodied mouth open as she croaked, "Mother." At dawn, her father found me on the shoreline, trying to latch her husk to my breast, and it was the gulls above who screamed, "Mother." This is number 9 for those who are keeping track. I'm almost done. This one is called Modern Angels Are Nihilists. It was published by I forget what they're called specifically. They are a group in Jersey that I continually forget the name of, and also my cat has decided it is time to play with plastic, so I'm a little distracted. Okay. Modern Angels Are Nihilists. There is a seraph who skulks around the liquor store in the hours between twilight and dawn. Despite her many crooked mouths, she doesn't talk much. She's always gripping a vape in one hand and a bottle of Patron in another. On the day that the Rhone drove the floundering worms to the sidewalk, she told me, with my palms full of wrigglers, that there was nothing divine left in me. I asked her how come, and she coughed out her answer. Gods do not waste time moving us out of harm's way. Okay. And this is our last one. Um, as I do write horror, this is horror and a little bit of body horror. So if you are not a big fan of that, you are free to mute me for this. It is called Roadkill. It was originally published by Vermilion, the magazine at Catholic University, but it is also now going to be included in my upcoming thesis. A body the size of a retriever, strewn by the median. The cars have slowed, not stopped, in caution, as the corpse has yet to clear. Skid marks, bright red, lead from the left lane to the carcass. Not enough blood spilled to blanket it from us. Most deer get left in one piece. Our car lumbers forward, and I see. The highway stops for nothing. Not for a wandering deer, or a rabbit, or a cat, and not for this child, separated from her parents, now separated between her ribs and her legs, with her hands under her little head, as if she had just laid herself on the grass, lulled to sleep by the never-ending rumble of the road. Yeah, so that's all the stuff I prepared for today. I did not have a timer going, so I am either way under my time or way over my time. Um, but yeah, that's my stuff.
Thank you so much, Georgia, for those beautifully intense and wonderful poems. I was getting whiffs of like some of my favorite William Bronk poems, and there's this great poet named Gladys Oaks who has this book called Nursery Rhymes for Children of Darkness, and that like Judas poem put me right in there. Judas Meditates Upon the Christ is one of my favorites of hers. So that was Georgia Riordan, who you just got to hear 10 marvelous poems from another manuscript in the works by way of the thesis that we're very excited to be out in the world very soon. And you can find more of Georgia's stuff all over the place. Georgia has that website we mentioned earlier, georgiariordan.com, but Georgia is also on Instagram at georgia.riordan. And again, Georgia's finishing up that MFA thesis in poetry. Their website will keep you abreast of where those poems appear, but definitely keep an eye out for the book, the beautiful book that they will become. I have no doubt in my mind. Um, oof, cool. Wow. We hit the midway point all the time, and I'm always like gently humming with everything that I've heard so far and everything that I'm excited yet to hear. And no exception in our next reader, who I'm very, very excited to introduce in Nick Molbert. Nick Molbert was born and raised on Louisiana's Gulf Coast. Nicholas lives in Los Angeles. His debut collection, Altars of Spine and Fraction, just came out last month from Northwestern University Press. It's a book that I really love and got to read and enjoyed immensely, and I'm hoping we'll hear a little bit from it today. Nick, thanks so much for being here. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom, for inviting me and Georgia and Jose and Jessica. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. So my book, Altars of Spine and Fraction, just came out last month. I'll read 8 or so poems from it, and then maybe some new shit if I have time. The book itself is kind of a coming of age story growing up in the Deep South under the baggage of kind of masculine tradition, legacy, lineage, all that stuff, and how I moved coasts and kind of carried that into a romantic relationship. So I'll read chronologically through the book so you kind of get a feeling of it. Overture. What now to praise? The gulls call and the canals answer. Another lane eaten by the encroaching coastline. The woman pushing her station wagon to the last pump left in town. New days subside and slide under the old. Landscapes turn to elegy. Natural disaster is damn near a priest pondering a break from vows under silent wind chimes of Nikes strung from power lines. This town is strained to keep out the bad, and the boxed up good is just shipped out. We say it must be good if no one's talking, purely out of habit, as if tradition is the one spark left here. But praise what's here, claim it for the kingdom of memories made sacred. What small talk before the death pause is this? The t-shirt slung around the willow is a half-assed flag at half-mast. It whips a sound threatening to become my name. Now, I had no say on what the cover is going to be, and they're the fish on the cover. There's a lot of fishing in this book. Yeah, and other kind of boy activities like football and such. So I'll read a few poems about those. This next one's called Parable of Baiting. Time passed slow as a fishing trip. I cast it away from where you suggested, excused it as saving all bites for you. I steered clear for fear that my beginner's luck might pluck a throat from the throng swarming the boat's belly. If I was scared of some damn trout I could stop from flopping underfoot or palm, what else would scare me? Baiting. Baiting minnows half the size of the trout that would eat them. It was not that they are hard to hold, more that tethering them to a hook meant piercing what felt like plastic in their throats. Because I cared more about showing, I did not care about hurt. I baited minnow after minnow, punctured their throats with a click to the point of praying for a better way. So I closed my hand around them again and again, wound my fingers around them tight as a high drag reel. They gave to my grip. When you caught me baiting dead minnows, you told me to throw them over. When the next were just as still, you watched me closer, hushed, as to not scatter what life still flitted underneath us. You told me to be gentler. What else did I expect? This next poem is called Box, and it's about my least favorite thing and my favorite thing growing up, video games and fighting. Box. Give me an Xbox instead of a toolbox or a tackle box still. With my pixelated boxer, I will bang the faces of shit talkers because I was not myself ready years ago to be disgraced by the fisticuffs, the hurricane rush uppercuts of high school hierarchies. After athletic PE, unpadded, we gathered for the rehearsal of our boyhood myth under the football stadium's bleachers. But I only refereed. My fingers counted to a blurry 10. Standing did not depend on how incessantly you mashed buttons, and more than your hands rumbled when socked. We stood like tackle dummies. We didn't clap or console. We staggered like foals. We flung fists like joysticks. We stood quick or tried, no matter how battered. We rematched because blood meant risk. We each brought a clean change of clothes. When it was done, one of us uncoiled the hose. And another football poem. There's only two in this book, and I'm reading both of them. So, yeah, I only played football for like 2 months, but got both of these poems out of it. Or no, I'm not. I'm actually not reading the other football poem. Anyway, Drill 2001. Coach said, "This is as real as it gets, boys," meaning nothing was truer than the smack of contact drills. We tackled dummies than each other's padded bodies. I learned I was more practiced at being hit, my childhood trained in full body flinch. I did not tell anyone I quit because of the drill that begins with two boys on their backs beneath the field's flickering lights, helmets touching at the crowns. The drill named after a state known for football, for the stiff arm of manifest destiny, dirt, and dust. On the whistle, the boys rise and tackle. The drill ends with one boy on his back and others cheering. Only one will be standing. His coach, surprised at what he could do when given no other choice. And those poems are from the beginning of the book. The first two sections are kind of family, and about certain rites of passage that as boys who grew up in the Deep South just had to reckon with, whether we perform them or not, or like them or not. Um, these next poems are love poems of a sort. The first one, and the you in all of these poems in the second half of the book are a significant other who, as you find out in other poems, notably does not understand the culture of the South. So it's kind of like a teaching moment, as it were. This one's called On Showing You My Hometown for the First Time. Let's follow the funk of diesel and washed up redfish carrion to the coastline of this town. The cattails submit to the emission whiff of the wind. They bow to the refinery as if to pay their respects or for their slow death. Men get cut good checks for factory work, but years later come out with crude slang and chronic illness. Fuel from the refinery powers planes that allow my parents to diffuse their room with vetiver grass vapor. We are obsessed with elsewhere. Look, there is a boutique named Elsewhere just over the horizon. In the same direction is the elementary school where I hacky-sacked through recess and swung from the old wooden derrick turned playground we called the Stifle Tower. Tomorrow, what do you say we oops over the fence into the playground and goof around on the makeshift bars? We can kick a homemade hacky sack made from short grain rice and a zip-tied crew sock. We'll come back at sundown when the horizon pulses red. We'll play hopscotch in the grid made from the waning sun as it shines through the trifle of this derrick. Just three more poems. On the canal. As half of the sun becomes the whole sun, I decide to say not half but the whole thing. We note the beauty silently. The hound understands the angle of ball after tennis ball, the straightest path. The top water shimmers oil and polyethylene moves with the canal toward its emptying. You point to the trash caught on the piling of the wharf spinning with the current. To note beauty, we must look away. What else do I ignore to point out the reddening doily stenciled on your chest by your complicated sports bra? I am trying to be less serious about serious matters. It's much easier when we have spatters to worry about. Mosquitoes' insides turned out by our palms, bumps and splotches on shins and shoulders. We survey ourselves in the mirror before we head to bed, reminded of the bites just as we've forgotten them. We shudder and wonder what else we might have done to ourselves. This next one is after a mini essay by Ross Gay in his Book of Delights. And Ross Gay is one of my, I couldn't get him to blurb my book, sadly, but he said no. But one of my favorite writers, and this poem is called Cup Licking. Only after leaning over the couch's chasm between my beloved and me to lick the coffee hugging the side of her favorite mug, Dr. S is at your cervix. Did I remember this licking is not acceptable, not delightful everywhere? For example, in Catholic Mass, after you sip the blood from the chalice, and you might, like me, not always be the best sipper with an audience of humans, yes, but Also the Lord's legions of angels, archangels, patron saints, punching hours, manning helplines, the saints I bothered with tasks of retracing my steps toward my umpteenth lost house key. Sorry also to you, human whose name I do not know, whose eyes I stare into as I say amen and bow my head Sunday after Sunday. Certainly you watched because you are the holy human volunteer who handed me the chalice, who accepted that meager calling of turning and wiping it after each of us pins our germs to its lip. You saw me without hesitation, tongue its gilded curvature as if it were, and forgive me for saying this, the smooth give of my beloved's earlobe. And given how long I spent giving a shit about intimacy and its witnesses, I should have space to say, whose tongue has not at least once been where it's not supposed to be, goddammit? Who, because having not admitted this aloud, has not been slicked by shame, stiffened to inaction. O patron saint of digression, hear me out. I did not mean to land here. But if there be in your ranks an unemployed patron saint, let me propose a vocation for them. Patron saint of a love that when this love so moves the lover to a desire verging on cannibalism cannot help but say, I could just, I could just, mm. I'll do one, maybe two more poems. This poem is the second to last poem in the book, and it's another love poem of sorts. It's called But If You Have Me Last. Slip me into my mother's pillow, or else bury me in extinguished cretin on my own plot of land. Bury me in a clawfoot tub until I am black mold haloed and raw. Grind me coarse and straight into a Cafe Du Monde coffee tin, so when you open me up, you'll smell chicoryed home. If you want, hack my fingers and toes and stuff them into an infusion pitcher with bruised mint and lemon. But if you must preserve me whole, first give me sideburns of ash or a mustache crafted from the tangle of hair stuck in the tub drain. Make no mention of what you do with my tongue. And if there be a headstone, let it say, he was aight. And if you want me private, set my molar in a locket or stitch a strand of my beard into the inseam of your favorite pants. If not, then sit me in an artisan armchair near a window where the morning ladders through the blinds, where a melange of roses and horseflies lie sunning on the windowsill. And I'll read one more because it kind of dovetails on those last two. It'll be quick, I'm sorry. I have a friend who is a fiction writer, so he both thinks poetry is absurdly easily written. So just write it. He's always like, just write a poem today. Um, and this title is called this poem is titled David Suggests I Write a Poem. And one time he gave me a quote from this old English philosopher, Joseph Addison, and he told me write a poem about this quote. The quote is, our imagination loves to be filled with an object or to grasp at anything that is too big for its capacity. David suggests I write a poem. I want to not be ashamed of wanting. As a boy, no taller than the tallest sugarcane stalk, I was taught that want played out in the dark or to the background noise of a shower head. That want wants to shoot straight, but shouldn't. To say what you want is to say too much, and David tells me I can no longer use "and I thought of you" as the volta to yet another one of my poems. So from here on out, please respect this moratorium on making my want clear in words. The critic said, we are most lyrical when we are in pain. Okay, But know that when I rise to apostrophe, to interjection, when I rise and rise to a height surpassing all equipoise, and dip into the fervor for everything but you, know that it pains me to grasp at something in the mind that is not you. I did not think of you when I dumped my wants into the crematory of shame, but when I see the Wednesday ash, I see the mark that smeared my forehead as a boy succumbed to guilt and shame, a mark thumbed visible enough to say, I am not man enough to save myself. I am not man enough to think of you. I do not think of you. I come back and back to you, my slick salt lick, my slippery won't. Thank you.
Amazing, Nick. Thank you for those incredible poems, and thank you as a raised Catholic, bad at sports type. That was a trip you just took us on. That was Nick Molbert, who you can find on Twitter at Nicholas Molbert, NicholasMolbert. Instagram, same handle, and you can check out Nick's website, nicholasmolbert.com, where you can find more information about that beautiful, beautiful book you just heard poems from, Altars of Spine and Fraction, again, just out from Northwestern University Press. A beautiful read with a beautiful fortuitous fish on the cover. Oh, there is always a little bit of bittersweetness, a little bit, maybe it's a function of that weird Catholic guilt, to get to the end of our reading order. But I am delighted to be introducing our final reader this evening, who's going to take us home with a bang. That is Jessica Whipple. Jessica Whipple writes for adults and children. Her picture books Enough Is from Tilbury House 2023, illustrated by Nicole Wong, and I Think a Lot from Free Spirit Publishing in 2023, illustrated by José Bizallon, are available anywhere books are sold. Her poetry has been published in both print and online literary magazines, and her poem Broken Strings has received Pushcart and Best of the Net nominations. She lives in Pennsylvania. To learn more about her work, you can visit authorjessicawhipple.com, but before then, you can listen to her read right now. Thank you, Jessica, for being our final reader of the evening. I'm so excited to hear what you're going to share.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. All right. I will start with, we'll do a pantoum. So this is called Bedtime Routine, a pantoum. This is the first and only pantoum I've written. I like the form. I'm going to try some more. Bedtime Routine, a pantoum. 6 pillows line our headboard. They're not for sleeping on, they're for looking at. A destiny never completely fulfilled. They're not for sleeping on, expensive velvet envelopes. A destiny never completely fulfilled. In silence, he tosses them into a corner. Expensive velvet envelopes, in sunlight, he replaces them. In silence, he tosses them into a corner. This is how to hate a pillow. In sunlight, he replaces them. A duty fulfilled nearly every morning. This is how to hate a pillow. This is how to love a wife. Thank you. This is Work/Life, which was published in Funicular. This is the issue, but I'm going to read it from my printout. Work/Life. A man coaxes a dresser to stand up from a schematic on his workbench. A woman snips peonies. She writes their heavy heads in a jar on her dining room table. What makes them beautiful is too much for them to bear. And possibly the most direct route to upright is the miracle of corn and soybeans standing in ripples on this Pennsylvania land. 3 draft horses move as one to wake the earth. Hitching gear jangling as if to say, get up, take up your mat, and walk. Thank you. This is another pastoral, farmy one. I live in Lancaster, so there's a lot of farms and horses. This is Broadleaf, which was published at One Art. It is 5 haiku stanzas. Broadleaf. My daughter calls it Bataco. Funny, but just because she's little. It serrates the sky. Broad leaves claw the horizon, greedy for good things, given freely by worked earth as a livelihood for honest people. Come fall, the barn swells, sides splayed like fraying broom heads as wrinkled leaves dry. How much, I wonder, of growing is killing? How much of life is death? I wrote that about my mixed feelings about the tobacco farms that are here in Lancaster. Broadleaf is the type of tobacco we grow here. This is Lady in Church. This is one I just wrote and put on Twitter and Instagram. Lady in Church. Nobody minds how loudly she proclaims, I love you, I love you. White-haired, she is the child we're jealous of, this vision where every day is Sunday. And nobody wonders, is it sad or is it beautiful? Thank you. This is Splinters. Yeah, that was in Door is Ajar, and that's the one that was nominated by Door is Ajar for Pushcart and Best of the Net. I think it was Pushcart in 2023 and Best of the Net in 2024. Splinters. My recurring dream. High school silver trumpet crumpled like foil. Actual regret. Not practicing. My daughter scratches notes on the viola. She resists my lessons. Won't let me count her in. So much insistence in her elbows, her down bows. At 38, I'm learning ukulele. She sees me after dinner, strumming, chucking, self-actualizing on the porch. It seems adults get to claim anything as their own. Wrong notes don't matter. When she dreams, the viola is in splinters, and what, if anything, is hers? Here's one that is new. It's called Orange Fingered Child. It's not published anywhere. We'll see. Orange Fingered Child. I'm captain of red plastic, my cart askew in a checkout Suez. Toddlers reaching for M&Ms, melting in hands, sticking to cart handles. Orange and green fingered children clamoring. It takes a kind of desperation to want a Slim Jim. Suspicion. I want to start this one over. All right, Orange Fingered Child. I'm captain of red plastic, my cart askew in a checkout Suez. Toddlers reaching for M&Ms, melting in hands, sticking to cart handles. Orange and green fingered children clamoring. It takes a kind of desperation to want a Slim Jim. Suspension of disbelief in oily plastic, because what I need is to snap into one of the other lanes because someone is writing a check, because their pillow doesn't have a barcode, and oops, dish soap bounds away. I look at my own list. Eggs. Letters connect like tasty cake icing. I'm a child faking cursive. Everybody hurries. After this, I'm already late for. A magazine cover says, eat slower for better health, but lately, me and Doritos. It's my turn. I'm that orange-fingered lady holding a half-eaten snack. No, I'm that orange-fingered child who forgot her piggy bank, who takes out a pen, who writes a check. This is Concerning My Legs, which is published at Rathala Review. Concerning my legs. They were strewn like teen magazines across the porch when Mom came at them with a 5-cent thick. "Katie shaves," she declared, took the first swipe. Trickle of blood dried in the crease of my ankle. Later the other leg, an unreadiness. Jeans in summer. The word woman. Some words I didn't know. Feminist, misogyny. Reasons why that one girl in high school didn't shave. I grew into smooth legs tipped with strappy sandals. She covered hers in cargo pockets and flattened her breasts. We learned about the baggage we were supposed to be carrying, heavy like history binders. A decade later, amniotic fluid soaked my jeans. Husband rushed me to the hospital. No time to shave. Legs strewn across the bed like parenting magazines, I apologized for the stubble, not yet knowing how much work these legs would do without my asking. In that realist moment, while pain like heat took my breath, I felt the oldest rocks pushing forth from the earth, and I was the first woman. I was the only woman. Thank you. Okay, here is, I'm gonna do a couple more if that's all right. Okay. So we'll do, this is Grub Run Sonnet. This is a sonnet that ran at Whale Road Review. It's an American sonnet, so it's a little loose. Okay, Grub Run Sonnet. We tromp through August's only shade along a creek that feeds Susquehanna when the water calls to me, she screams and lands between the shale, between the shade, between unknown and known. To hold her hand would mean I fear the mud on which she slips, and yet to let her go recalls the aged dad who gave his son, his line, his love atop the pyre. And I don't know a thing about all this, not roots and mycorrhizal growth, but how to give her where the stream began, or how to feel a joy as strong as oaks that stand despite the question and the curse. What if she is all I really have? Thank you. I'm going to do one longish one and then a couple of light ones to finish up. Okay. This is from Pine Hills Review. It's called This Is What I'm Thinking at the Container Store. It's a kind of a prose poem. This is what I'm thinking at the Container Store. There's a reality where Lego instructions, crumpled like dollar bills, unfurl to crisp life again in sleek plastic pockets, in binders lining bookshelves. A basket in my bedroom holds clothes waiting to be reworn. I gave it a name even, a wear again bin. A name makes a thing important. This is the best I can do. Sometimes it feels like all my problems could be solved if I had places for things. Husband wants a spot for keys. School pickups run on time when I can locate my sunglasses. A thing is important if it has a place. I'm terrible at filing. Bills, coupons, invoices. Life creates endless items to be sorted and categorized. When a thing has a place and a name, it can be found again. I wonder about this. Where do I keep the things I don't want to possess? Once, when I opened the fridge, 15 watts illuminated liminal space. PB&J or mac and cheese. The decision meant nothing. The decision meant everything. For months, I struggled to keep my head above its inky depths. Finding a thing again is like remembering. So I recall this moment often. In my brain, there's a file marked "She was overwhelmed" and a subfolder titled Lunch. There's also work, disease, God, and others. Like the cardboard box labeled OCD, this file is heavy, taped shut. But I know where it is. It's in the basement, on the narrow shoulder of an overpass, at the end of 2008, the middle of 2010, my fertile 2015. These were the times I relinquished my phone, keys, wallet, before passing through the Psych ER's metal detector. I can find this tangle of hard questions, shameful confessions, when I need it. I revisit the prayers, apologies, repeated like a leaky faucet, droplets always tracing the same path. Remembering is a way of being ready for next time. I strive for actual organization, but what I really want is tidy thoughts, truth and impossibility in a mutually exclusive Venn diagram. I can live with a messy toy chest, closet, and junk drawer. When the pipes burst, I don't need an acrylic office caddy. Give me a bucket to catch the flow. And this is just a grouping of poems I'd like to share on Twitter. Sometimes I'll just do a poem for today's date and then something that happened, or just, an experience I had that day. So these are a few of those. I'll try to make sense of them. I have them on multiple sheets of paper. So, poem for fall. Shy successes, an emptied sink, a stain soaked loose, count least at the start of autumn, when a lonely home defeats me. But I think again of the stain and remember which one of us still exists. Poem for February 15th. I don't prefer my broccoli served worm, and that is not a typo. Lament for February 22nd. I wish I had a laundry chute, but all I have is laundry. Shoot. Poem for May 6th. Late nights, his shoes, a population. Poem for age 38. I sat down to write and got stuck, but not on the words. Poem for July 13th. The dream is real, teeth fall out. Poem for 10:19 p.m. Why is it so late already? Why am I so old already? Poem for October 23rd. I have a problem, but the solution is not a Hershey kiss. That's a concrete poem. A few more. Sorry, they're on my phone. Okay. Poem for a driver's license photo day. Hair was good. Camera didn't notice. Poem for September 16th. Can of tomato paste, there is never enough opportunity. Poem for November 6th. I hate where this poem is going. Too late, it is already gone. That's all. Thank you.
What a beautiful, joyful note to end us on. That tomato paste one is killing me. It is so good. And that was Jessica Whipple, who you can find on various social media places at Jessica Whipple 17 with no E. So it's Jessica WHIPPL 17 on Twitter and Instagram. Jessica also has that website, authorjessicawhipple.com, where you can learn about not only her poetry work, but also her work in YA and just incredible things that she's been doing. Also, do follow her on social media so you can participate in the direct to social media poem world, which I think is like one of the most beautiful worlds on the planet. So I'm so
Sorry,
glad.
one correction. It's picture books, not YA.
Oh, picture books. Forgive me. I'm so sorry. Thank you for correcting me on that. Speaking of picture books, I believe Jessica is also about to present at the New York State Reading Association's yearly conference about the ways that picture books are similar to poetry. So if you're in New York State and you want to check that out, you can do that as well. Yeah. Marvelous. We have reached the end of our reading tonight. I'm so, so glad that you all were here to share your work with us. And I'm so, so glad that our listeners have been here as well. I just want to, again, thank you so much for being here, for giving this hour and change of your life over to poetry. We hope if you're listening with a sheaf of new poems close at hand, you might consider dropping us a line. Again, we're at Nightlight Poems on Twitter and at night_light_poems_ on Instagram or via email. You can just reach out to me at tomsnarsky@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear from you if you'd like to read at a future event. We got a really lovely spike of interest after our last couple readings. So some of the winter lineups are starting to fill up, but there's 2025, there's the future. It's a bright one. We'd love to have you and your friends back on to read if you'd be so interested. And we're just going to wrap up the way we always do. There's always a poem at the end of Nightlight. So I'm going to read a poem to close by Bess Miller Brigham. This poem is called Tomb. Bone to bone, the body's weight, crunched up, thrown from the sky, caged in nakedness. A jar of stones, big as the moon, since their sun's turning white, bone writing, laid out in form that sleeping children take, facing one another, bare, fallen cold through flesh, fierce rocks that once made a generative light.